Buckle up, folks, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make your blood boil. Now, today, Washington is in absolute panic mode. Why? Because a bombshell has just gone off inside the Social Security Administration. Now, we're talking about billions. Yes, billions of your hard-earned dollars lost, wasted, and possibly covered up for years. And while Washington, D.C.'s bureaucrats scramble to try to bury the truth, President Trump, he's not sitting on the sidelines for a second longer. He's actually preparing to drop a housing market shocker that could unleash opportunity for millions of Americans who've been locked out of the American dream. Now, this is a move that's so bold, it's really got the swamp terrified. So now think about this just for a second. Your retirement money is being siphoned off by fraud and mismanagement. Meanwhile, families across this country, they can't afford a decent house, a decent home, because Washington keeps rigging the system. They take your money, they waste it, and then they lecture you about sacrifice. Does that sound fair to you? But this is not even the end of the story, not even by a long shot, because President Trump's next move, if he pulls the trigger on this plan, it could flip the entire housing market on its head. And guess what? It's already got Washington, D.C. insiders plotting how to stop him before the truth gets out. Now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and rip the lid off this entire mess here. You know, how the $18 billion vanished from Social Security. Anybody have any idea how that happened? Is there anyone watching the show on Social Security, maybe SSI or SSDI? So I want to talk about how this $18 billion vanished from Social Security, who's really protecting the fraudsters, and why Trump's big idea to free the housing market has Washington in full-blown meltdown. So let's go ahead and start with the $18 billion bombshell that the swamp never wanted you to hear about. A letter from the Social Security Administration's own Inspector General blew the lid off of decades of improper payments. I'm talking billions of your tax dollars slipping through the cracks, or worse, ending up in the wrong hands. Now think about that. $18 billion that working Americans paid in with every paycheck, thinking it was safe, thinking it was protected, waiting for retirement. But instead, it was flushed away by a system that's either so incompetent that it can't even track its own money, or maybe it's so corrupt that it's protecting insiders and fraudulent claims on purpose. I really haven't determined which it really is, but in either case, both options suck. And so here's the kicker. While this fraud remains running rampant and wild, Washington, they have the nerve to lecture you about sacrifice. It's unbelievable. I mean, they just gaslight people. It's ridiculous. They say there's not enough money. They're saying that cuts are coming in 8 years. They're saying that you'll just have to deal with it. How are you just going to deal with it when your bills are more than what's coming in, right? That means like some people are going to be out on the streets. But never once did they admit how much they've already lost, wasted, or maybe even covered up, right? So folks, if this doesn't just piss you off to no end, I don't know what will. So imagine this, right? You got $18 billion. Can you imagine what that could have done for seniors that are living on fixed incomes right now? Imagine how many Americans are skipping meals. They're cutting their prescriptions in half. Maybe they're choosing between heat and groceries, all because Washington, D.C. can't or won't protect the money that they promised you. And so here's what should really scare you. And this is just what they admitted to. How much more is really missing that they're still hiding, right? But of course, the panic in Washington, D.C. isn't just about the money. It's also about what happens when the truth gets out, because we're talking about politicians who knew that this fraud was happening. They looked the other way and they sold you out to protect their own careers. Like, you're not going to want to miss this. By the way, if you appreciate the news updates, hit the like button and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. So here's where it gets absolutely freaking disgusting. For years, Washington insiders, they had reports that were piling up about Social Security waste, abuse, even payments to people who were dead, unqualified, or just flat out fake beneficiaries. They knew this money wasn't going where it was supposed to go to. But instead of fixing it, they played politics. Why? Because nobody in Washington, D.C. wanted to touch Social Security before an election. They would rather just keep the fraud hidden, let billions of dollars slip away, and just keep telling you, oh, don't worry, everything's fine. Meanwhile, the trust fund's clock is ticking. Hardworking Americans are staring down the barrel of massive benefit cuts in less than a decade. And this isn't just failure, it's betrayal. These politicians, they protected themselves, their image, their campaigns, while they let a system that you paid into just rot from the inside out. And so now, under President Trump, the truth is coming out. Inspectors are exposing the mess. Control systems are finally being put in place. But you better believe it is causing full-blown panic in DC. Because if Americans realize just how broken this really is, they're going to demand more than just minor fixes. They're going to demand a Trump-style shakeup that drains the swamp once and for all. So ask yourself this: do you really trust this political machine to clean up its own corruption? Or is it time for an outsider, a fighter, a president who actually puts the American people first to tear it down and rebuild it right? Now, folks, we're just now scratching the surface. And in a moment, I want to go ahead and dive into the broken promises that Washington hoped you would never hear, how they've known Social Security is running dry while they write blank checks full of errors and fraud. Guys, we're talking about President Trump's housing market shocker, a plan that could finally set Americans free from this rigged game, and why the swamp is terrified of this. Now, Julie from Kansas, she trusted her local broker. Huge mistake. I mean, she was put in a plan that cost more just to see her doctor. And then after calling Chapter, she got on a plan that saved her $400 a year and actually covered her needs. Catherine Garcia, she said Chapter was wonderful. They handled everything, and I walk away owing absolutely nothing. Guys, this is why I partnered with Chapter, to stop people from getting ripped off. So give our friends at Chapter a call. Phone number's down below, 909-563-8279, or hit them up on their website at askchapter.org/Ron. Do not let bad advice drain your wallet. Just get honest, unbiased, free help today. Phone number's down below. So folks, brace yourself, because what I'm about to say, this is going to make your jaw drop. The Congressional Budget Office and the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, they have been warning for years that Social Security is on a collision course with insolvency. Less than 8 years from today, guys, the program that every American pays into could be flat broke, forcing cuts of up to $18,000 a year for a dual earning couple. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is their own official data that's revealing this stuff. Here's the part that Washington really doesn't want you to know. They've known this for decades. And what did? They did nothing to fix it. Instead, they just keep on handing out payments riddled with fraud. They let the phantom beneficiaries just keep siphoning off billions. And then they lie straight to your face saying, oh, don't worry about it. Our benefits are safe. Safe? When $18 billion is already missing? Like, when the countdown clock to insolvency is ticking down every single day? This isn't safety. It's a betrayal of every hardworking American who trusted the system with their future. Let me ask you this. If Washington can't protect the money that's already in the fund, why on earth would anybody trust them to protect what you've got coming in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? I mean, make no mistake, folks, the truth is out now. They can't bury it anymore. And the more that this story spreads, the more the swamp panics, because it exposes just how corrupt, how broken, and how dangerous this DC machine really is. And so here's where the story really takes a turn. Because while Washington wastes your money, President Trump, he's preparing a bold, patriotic move that could give struggling families a real shot at the American dream again, and the swamp hates him for it. Now, doesn't that sound pretty screwed up, right? So while DC bureaucrats sit on their hands, letting their retirement money bleed out, President Donald J. Trump is fighting to fix another part of this broken system. This is the rigged housing market that's crushing working class Americans. Now, Trump knows that millions of families already feel, he knows what they feel every single day. Homeownership, the cornerstone of the American dream, is being ripped away by sky-high prices, soaring interest rates, pushing property taxes. I mean, I know everybody has seen their property taxes rise in the last couple of years, right? And then suffocating regulations that they stop new homes from being built. And so it keeps prices high. And here's the plan. The big idea to unleash the market that has Washington insiders trembling: end the capital gains tax on home sales. Now think about that, right? Right now, millions of Americans who want to downsize, relocate, or simply sell their homes are held hostage by brutal tax penalties. This traps supply, keeps inventory locked up, and it sends prices through the roof. Now, Trump's move would unlock millions of homes, finally giving younger generations and working families a shot to buy a new house at a lower price. And it's a plan that's designed for you, not for big banks, not for political elites, but for the American people who just want a house that they could call their own home, right? And so here's the contrast, folks. While DC blows billions on Social Security fraud and mismanagement, Trump's plan would put money back in your pocket, free up the housing market, and help rebuild the dream that this swamp has been choking for decades. So now, of course, don't think for a second that they're just going to kind of let Trump get away with that without a fight. The same corrupt machine that covered up $18 billion in fraud, they're going to do everything in their power to stop this plan from becoming reality because it threatens their control, their cash flow, and of course, their political stranglehold on your life. So this is why you're seeing panic in DC right now, because for the first time in a long time, an outsider president is exposing their lies and offering real solutions that put Americans first. And of course, we're not done yet because the deeper you dig, the uglier it gets. I want to go ahead and break down how real Americans are being forced to choose between feeding their kids, paying outrageous taxes, and keeping a roof over their heads, all while billions vanish into thin air inside of Social Security. Now, folks, let's get real for a second. There are two Americas right now, and you know exactly which one you're living in. There's the Washington elite sitting on their plush salaries, wasting billions of your money in Social Security fraud and improper payments, covering it up and patting themselves on the back for a job well done. Then, of course, there's your America, where hardworking families are choosing between sending their kids to a decent school, keeping the lights on, or paying skyrocketing property taxes and insurance bills that now cost more than the mortgage itself. So we got Americans being told we might have to cut your benefits by $18,000 a year in 2033. Meanwhile, phantom beneficiaries and fraudulent claims have been pocketing billions unchecked for decades. Now, tell me, guys, how does this make sense? How does any of that make sense, right? How can they lose that kind of money and still look you in the eye and say, oh, don't worry, everything's fine? This isn't just bad policy. This is government betrayal on a massive scale. They take your money for a lifeline, they promise you security, and then they mismanage it, they waste it, and they make you pay the price when their scheme collapses. And yet, when President Trump steps up with a plan to fix the housing mess, to unlock homes for working families, to actually put the American dream back within reach, the same people who oversaw billions in fraud suddenly claim that we can't afford it. So they can afford billions in mistakes and fraud, but a plan that helps you, they call that reckless. Folks, this is the swamp exposed. They're fine burning your money in secret, but they'll fight tooth and nail to stop you from ever getting ahead. So now, if you thought $18 billion lost was bad, what I'm about to tell you, this is going to pretty much shake your trust in this entire system. We're talking about phantom Social Security numbers, identity theft, benefits tied to people who don't even exist. This is why the panic in DC went nuclear. So here's the truth that Washington insiders wish you would never see. They wish that this would never see the light of day. Investigators have uncovered inactive or even deceased Social Security numbers still floating around in the system. Numbers that have been used to essentially traffic identities, commit fraud, possibly even collect benefits for people who aren't even alive anymore. So think about that for a second, right? While real Americans, your parents, your grandparents, fight tooth and nail for every penny of the benefits that they've earned, the system is so freaking broken, it's so unprotected that it can't even shut off checks to dead accounts. We're not just talking about a bookkeeping error here, guys. This is an open door for criminals, for identity theft, for money to be siphoned off of a system that you've been forced to fund your entire working years. You can't even say, hey, I don't even want to play this game. I don't want to participate. You have to participate. They will take your money out of your paycheck and stuff it into the Social Security fund. And for years, Washington did nothing but look the other way. This is why Trump had to step in with zero tolerance fraud policies, demanding a full cleanup of the Social Security rolls and pushing for secure digital first systems that finally put an end to the nightmare. But make no mistake, the swamp hates this because every ghost payment uncovered, every dollar of fraud exposed, this is a dollar that can't shuffle around or, they can't shuffle around or hide in some bureaucratic black hole. This is not just incompetence. It is a scandal decades in the making, and it's finally blowing wide open. And folks, here's the question you got to ask yourself. If they can't even stop money going to people who don't exist, how can they ever be trusted with your retirement, your future, your family safety net, right? And so this fight, it's far from over, guys, because I want to tell you about the battle ahead, the war that Trump is waging against the entire DC establishment to protect your money, to save Social Security, and finally set families free from a rigged housing market. And this is really where it all comes to a head. So here's the truth. I just want to go ahead and lay it all flat out. The fraud is exposed, and now the battle lines are drawn. So on one side, you got the DC establishment, career politicians, bureaucrats, even the special interest groups who've been bleeding your Social Security dry for decades. They're covering it up. They're ignoring the warnings. They're letting fraudsters run wild. These are the same people blocking new homes from being built. They're driving prices through the roof, and they're trapping families in a housing market that feels impossible to escape. Now, on the other hand, you got President Donald J. Trump, a leader who's not afraid to take on the swamp head on. Trump's fighting for real reforms, demanding that every dollar lost to fraud is tracked, clawed back, and protected for the seniors who earned it. He's standing up to the housing cartel, calling out Jerome Powell's high interest rate disaster, and promising to unleash supply, cut taxes, and give Americans a fair shot at the American dream again. Now, this isn't just another policy debate. This is a war for the future of your money, your retirement, and your family's chance to own a home. And believe me, guys, the swamp is terrified because Trump's not just talking, he's acting. He's exposing their corruption, and he's delivering solutions that they've avoided for decades. But every time he moves to fix what's broken, the same corrupt establishment tries to stop him. Why? Because a system riddled with fraud and scarcity keeps them rich, powerful, and in control. And they would rather you suffer than lose that power. That's the truth. And now it just kind of comes all down to a choice, a decision that every American watching this video right now is going to have to make before this fight's over. So let me ask you this straight up, folks. Do you want to live in America where government steals billions from Social Security, covers it up, and then tells you to accept the cuts and sacrifices while families are trapped in an impossible housing market with no way out? Or do you want to live in an America where corruption is exposed, fraud is crushed, retirement accounts are protected, and every hardworking American has a real shot at a home that they can afford? Because right now, you can't have both. You can't trust the broken machine and at the same time expect it to save you. You got to choose the swamp with its endless fraud, cover-ups, and excuses, or a leader who's willing to blow the lid off their scams and fight for you no matter how much DC panics, screams, or threatens to stop him. The truth is out. $18 billion stolen, a rigged housing market, and a Washington elite that's been lying to you for decades. Trump is taking them on, and they know if he wins this fight, their days of stealing from you are over. So now America has a choice to make. Which side are you on? Now, don't go anywhere, guys, because YouTube thinks you're going to love this next video popping up on your screen right now. Click it because this fight for your money, for your retirement, and your American dream is just getting started, and you need to see what's coming next. I'll see you on the other side.